Donald Trump recently endorsed J.D. Vance as the guy for the Republican Party in the 2028 elections, floating his hypothetical support for a J.D. Vance-Marco Rubio ticket. And with this newfound endorsement and wind at his sails, J.D. Vance goes on Fox News and gives a masterclass interview, showing indeed why he is the future of the MAGA movement. He articulates his policy positions flawlessly. It's such a breath of fresh air and stark contrast from Kamala Harris. And he demonstrates to us why he is the perfect steward for the America First agenda. And when the reporter asks him if he plans on running in 2028, he puts the entire Democrat Party on notice by letting them know J.D. Vance is coming and is poised to give America another 8 years of winning after Donald Trump. As always, like the video and subscribe to the channel, but let's check out this poll from CNN that shows that already J.D. Vance is clearly the front runner.
Let's talk about J.D. Vance and the 2028. Where does he stand on this?
You know, I'm going to quote the esteemed scholar Larry David and say, pretty good. What are we talking about right here? Well, why don't we take a look here? Look, this is early polling, but look, for the GOP nomination, it's J.D. Vance at 40%. There's no one even close to him. Ron DeSantis back at single digits at 8%. Donald Trump Jr. back at 7%. President Trump, you know, has said some pretty gosh darn favorable things about J.D. Vance over the last week and his chances perhaps in 2028. Look at this. Times Trump endorses in GOP primaries, and that person goes on to win. Look at this. In 2020, 98%. 2022, 95%. 2024, 96%. If Donald Trump decides to get behind his vice president, this GOP nomination fight in 2028 is likely adios amigos over. J.D. Vance is very much likely going to be the GOP nominee, which is what the polling says and what his history says as well. At this point, things are all seem to be coming up for J.D.
When Donald Trump endorsed J.D. Vance, that guaranteed him the support of the MAGA base. But what really makes J.D. Vance a compelling candidate is he shares Donald Trump's fervor and vigor and belief in an America First agenda. But he doesn't carry the same emotional baggage and polarizing persona that Donald Trump has. This will allow J.D. Vance to pick up large swaths of voters who are completely disappointed with the Democrat Party, but have concluded that they won't support Donald Trump for character flaws they find less than desirable. J.D. is poised, he's composed, he's articulate, he's measured. And you'll see all of that in this interview where he announces that he's running for president. But first, let's go back to that CNN segment that showed J.D. Vance as the Republican frontrunner, because they showed that the Democrat Party is in the complete opposite position right now, just discombobulated and running around like a chicken with their head cut off.
How people view the Democratic Party right now, is that contributing to this?
Yeah, I think that is in large part of what's going on, is one of the reasons why there is no front runner. Nobody wants to put anybody up at the top of their ballot list, is because at this particular point, the Democratic brand is in the basement. It is total and complete garbage in the mind of the American public. The Democratic Party's net favorable rating, record lows in all three. Wall Street Journal, 30 points underwater. CNN, 26 points underwater. Gallup, 26 points underwater. And that is being driven in large part by discontent within the Democratic base. The Democratic base wants something different. We'll ultimately end up seeing who they choose. It'll be quite the thing who ultimately gets the rose.
The Democrats have no leader and subsequently no identity. They don't know whether they want to run Gavin Newsom, who's now decided his strategy is to try to emulate Trump as much as possible. They don't know if they want to run AOC and embrace this radical leftist socialism movement. They don't know if they want to run Hakeem Jeffries, Walmart Obama, try that shtick again. They at least know that they don't want Kamala Harris anywhere near the Democrat Party again. And like they said on CNN, nobody is willing to take the lead as the head of this party. So all this negative publicity and attention that the Democrats are receiving will be funneled directly to one person. But luckily, that is not us. Now let's get into this J.D. Vance interview so you guys can hear where he stands on all the most important issues. Here he is reassuring us that after Donald Trump, we are still going to get 8 years of mass deportations.
I didn't even realize this, Maria, until a couple of years ago, that, you know, for apportioning representatives, you actually count illegal aliens. So even though illegal aliens theoretically are not supposed to vote, we know sometimes they do, you still count illegal aliens for congressional apportionment. So California has way more House seats than it should because they have such a high population of illegal aliens. So they get rewarded for welcoming illegal aliens into their state, giving them federal benefits, actually asking the taxpayers of states like Ohio to subsidize them. And then those same taxpayers in Ohio and Indiana and elsewhere, they have fewer congressional representatives because of what California has allowed to happen. That's ridiculously unfair, and the only real way to fight back against it is for us to redistrict in some ways as aggressively as these hard blue states have done.
Now, I exposed the Democrats' dark little dirty plan for immigration in many videos, but what I want to touch on that I think is much more concerning is the Democrats' consistent weaponization of the Constitution to undermine fair representation. The Constitution says that all persons residing in the United States will be counted in the census, and that population number is used to determine apportionment for representatives in Congress, for federal funds, for electoral college votes. And that's because the founders could have never envisioned a situation that tens of millions of third world migrants would be transported into the United States intentionally at the behest of the party in control, at the expense of the well-being and quality of life of American citizens, and bolster the population of blue cities and states, all to take advantage of the rules laid out in the Constitution. The president has a constitutional duty to enforce the law, and Joe Biden for 4 years refused to enforce any kind of semblance of immigration law. In fact, his administration gave taxpayer money to NGOs to help facilitate the illegal immigration crisis, coaching the migrants on exactly what to say at the border. They were incentivized to lie so they could get into the United States, have a hearing set 10 years out in the future, get flown to any city of their choosing, usually Democrat sanctuary cities, and then live on the taxpayer dime in perpetuity, hoping one day this person would repay the Democrats with their vote. But in the meantime, they at least bolstered their presence in the census. And then, when we try to lawfully remove these people from our country, they once again weaponize the Constitution. Due process, due process. They conveniently start caring so much about the rule of law. They demand that every illegal immigrant gets unlimited taxpayer-funded hearings. They demand these illegals get privileges and exceptions that no American citizen would ever receive. They want the courts to consider whether this person has a family, whether they have U.S. citizen children, which is also part of the strategy, might I add, their abuse of birthright citizenship. They'll say this illegal immigrant pays taxes, he's a community member, therefore the law should not apply to him. And it's not because they care about due process, obviously not. It's because they want the process to be so strenuous, so impossible, so sluggish, that we won't be able to make a dent in the sheer volume of illegal immigrants that they just flooded across the border. And this problem can't get resolved in Trump's 4 years, so it's good to know that JD Vance is going to keep his foot on the gas when it comes to the continuation of much needed mass deportation. But here he is expressing another one of his American first policies. Listen to his stance on the US dealing with NATO and the European Union. I really love his answer to this.
What we said to the Europeans is simply, first of all, this is in your neck of the woods, this is in your back door. You guys have got to step up and take a bigger role in this thing. And if you care so much about this conflict, you should be willing to play a more direct and a more substantial way in funding this war yourself. I think the president, and I certainly think that America, we're done with the funding of the Ukraine war business. We want to bring about a peaceful settlement to this thing. We want to stop the killing. But Americans, I think, are sick of continuing to send their money, their tax dollars to this particular conflict. But if the Europeans want to step up and actually buy the weapons from American producers, we're okay with that, but we're not going to fund it ourselves anymore.
That answer is essential because it lets you know JD Vance is going to stay strong and resolved when it comes to dealing with our allies to make sure we're getting the best possible arrangement America can get. You know, the Democrats love to say, Donald Trump is ruining our relationships with our allies. We're so embarrassing on the world stage. I mean, we know it's not true. He's just effective, and the Democrats don't like efficacy, so it comes off to them as mean and harsh and authoritarian. Donald Trump is literally brokering peace all around the world. But more importantly, because Democrats believe this, you can bet whoever their candidate is will run on the concept of appeasement, on restoring our friendships with our foreign allies. All that means is giving them more money, not making them pay their fair share, prioritizing the well-being of their citizens above our own, and essentially becoming a European bootlicker who has to pay all these countries to pretend like they're friends with us. But JD Vance is getting some great job experience, being able to shadow Donald Trump, see how he leads with strength, how he utilizes leverage. Biden had the ability to leverage American prowess and prosperity to get some good things done for America too. But instead, he was more concerned with being likable. Imagine being the president of the United States and you're still a desperate, attention-seeking people pleaser. It's humiliating, and that's how the world looked at the United States. That's why Russia moved into Ukraine. The American military is nothing more than a bunch of metal and people. If the guy in charge isn't actually willing to use it properly to compel the respect that the United States military commands. Now, this is when the reporter asks JD Vance about running in 2028, and his answer is so poignant. It's polished. It's charming. He shows you what a real vice president is supposed to look like, not Kamala Harris.
The president has been floating you along with Marco Rubio as your partner for the next election. Have you spoken to Secretary Rubio about this?
I saw Marco about a month ago. We just laughed at the whole thing because neither one of us are focused on politics. We're focused on actually doing a good job for the American people. And the way that I think about it, Maria, is if we do a good job, number one, that's the reward in and of itself, that all have made a big difference in the lives of our country for the last 6 months and the next 3.5 years. But if we do a good job, the politics will take care of itself. Let's just focus on that. I think, as the president said, it's way too early to be thinking about the political future. It's frankly way too early to be thinking about 2026. It's certainly way too early to be thinking about 2028.
But you are expecting to run for president in 28.
I'm not going to break that news today, Maria. What I'm going to do is focus for the next year and a half on doing a really good job for the American people, winning the midterm elections in 2026, and then we can talk about politics after that.
Now, that's a politician's way of saying I'm running without verbatim saying you're running. Let me know what you guys think about a possible JD Vance Marco Rubio ticket in the comments below. I personally love the idea. Marco Rubio has been such a stud as Secretary of State. He has been this bulldog that destroys at these Senate hearings, unapologetic in his TV interviews, clearly standing up for Western values, American tradition, capitalism, democracy, Christianity. I think those two pack an insane 1-2 punch. But what he said is completely true. All he needs to be focused on is doing as much good as he can possibly do as the vice president, helping Trump stack these wins so he has an arsenal of positive accomplishments to run on. The Democrats have made their entire party about opposing Donald Trump, and they're completely lost right now in the midst of that strategy, a record low approval rating. Their policies are unpopular, their politicians are unlikable and unpopular, and they're either going to have to run as the anti-Trump party in 2028, but Donald Trump will be gone, Trumpism will be a thing of the past, or they'll have to run on their Biden-era policies, which will get completely destroyed by the 4 years of tangible success under the Trump administration. JD Vance is the last face that Gavin Newsom, AOC, Hakeem Jeffries, JB Pritzker want to see on a debate stage. But the last clip I wanted to show you is arguably the most important policy position JD Vance has. How is he going to handle the economy? How is he going to make sure that the American middle class can resurge and continue to prosper?
What the president has used tariffs to do is two things. Number one, you saw Tim Cook just this week come in and promise $600 billion of investment to build the iPhone, to build components, to build artificial intelligence data centers right here in the United States of America. We're seeing a manufacturing boom in this country because you have a president who's telling people that if you want to sell to great American consumers, you've got to make it in America and use great American workers to do it. The second thing thing the tariffs are doing is it's bringing in a lot of additional revenue, which of course we're using to give tax relief to the American people and make it easier for average Americans to get by. So I think we're doing a lot on the tariff side. And it's also, the final point I'll make on this is it's an incredible negotiating tool, because when you tell countries that have accessed American markets and cheated for a generation, you can't get into America's market unless you pay a big fat tariff or open up your own markets. You've seen this happen with the European Union. You've seen this happen with countries in Asia. All over the world, they're opening up their markets to American goods because they don't want to pay the tariffs. So it's a great negotiating tactic. It's been great for the American people. And I think it's the most important thing. Maybe aside from the border, the most important thing the president is doing is bringing back American prosperity. We're going to make more stuff in America because of the president's leadership.
Now, I think a lot of the tangible benefits and the reshoring of manufacturing jobs in America will certainly start to show over the next couple months, but more so over the next year, 2, 3. And the last thing we want is a Democrat coming in 2029 and reversing course on all of these policies, reverting back to a priority on green energy, which will make traditional energy much more expensive. That's one of the policies Trump is trying to ramp up so energy costs can plummet, which would be good for businesses trying to open mega factories, and also good for people at home who are tired of high electricity and gas bills. When companies make these large-scale investments, they need to be close to certain that on a 5 to 10 year timeline, this investment is going to pay out. There aren't going to be drastic policy shifts that completely nullify the value of their investment. And if JD Vance is president, these companies will be more confident to spend more, to invest more, to hire more, to build more, all here in America, because they know the policy of the administration is going to support them. And when you combine that policy certainty with the redistricting of red states, with the recalculation of the census that doesn't take into account illegal immigrants, provides more accurate representation for the American people, who in 90% of U.S. counties voted for Donald Trump. The Republicans might be able to pick up a congressional supermajority during J.D. Vance's term. This would allow for an unprecedented acceleration of the America First agenda. I explained this in a previous video. It is essential for the Republican Party to close the book on the Donald Trump era. Learn from the Democrats' mistake of trying to follow their cult of personality even after he's left government. They've been trying to ride Obama's coattails since, and it's absolutely failed because Obama was a one-of-one candidate. And that's the same thing with Trump. We need not to run a candidate who's trying to emulate Donald Trump, because it'll come off as contrived. It'll come off as unlikable and abrasive. We need to set the tone for this next generation of politics, because the Democrats have no identity. They're completely reactionary and playing catch up to the Republicans. Whatever we decide to do, that's what they're gonna do. And we can be the first party to revert back to a non-hyper-partisan, hyper-polarized, hyper-divisive political climate. And the Democrats will be completely lost because they'll still be stuck in all their old anti-Trump habits. Cursing every other word, extremely embarrassing TikTok videos, aggressive, racist, divisive rhetoric, calling people they don't like Nazis. And we'll be the ones to show the American people that we are effective, we are serious, and more than that, we are going to be unifying. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn on those notification bells so you never miss a video. And I will see you guys in the next one.